Your bike looks like it's wearing a big high vis.
I mean, it does, but it also means that people don't hit my bike.
Yeah.
Yamaha markets the R7 as the midpoint between the beginner-focused R3 and the range-topping R1. But does it really fill that gap?
So first things first, I do need to point out that we had the HO version, but it does also come in Lambs or the learner approved version as well. But I gotta say, we weren't sure when we rode it through the park, we weren't sure which one we had.
Yeah, it kind of felt exactly like your MT-07, which is the Lambs version.
Yes.
There you go.
But I think we noticed that when we had the two MT-07s for review, the new ones.
Yeah.
We only really notice it when you're right on the upper end of the rev range that you could notice that extra power.
Which we weren't in those upper rev ranges.
Yeah,
never.
Right?
So the engine is Yamaha's baby. They've been running it for about 10 years. It's a cross-plane crank parallel twin with an extremely linear power curve, which needs to be experienced to be believed. Seriously, it's like riding an electric bike.
Oh my gosh, come on.
No, in a good way. It's power.
It's not a good way.
It's just power the whole way. It's power.
I'd agree with that. Like, the power delivery is really linear on that bike.
I think it's just the comparison to electric bike is hurtful from the bikes that I've ridden.
Well, maybe you haven't ridden enough old shit boxes
Maybe that's it.
to know how happy I was.
Lucas can help you out there.
Yeah, massively. I've got more shit boxes than I know what to do with.
The gearbox as well, effortless, found it super easy, great clutch.
Yeah.
The gearbox is actually an absolute gem. I really like the gearbox on this bike.
Yeah, same here.
I thought the brakes were excellent. They pull up the bike beautifully, and the rear brake was good too. So you got dual 298mm discs on the front and a single 245mm disc on the rear. Brakes was sensational, I thought.
Every time Tegan and I stopped on our ride, I was doing stoppies.
Yes.
Just
With ease too.
yeah. Oh,
right?
the brakes are so good.
I don't think I've ever done one. Maybe I should have done it on this bike of all
Yeah,
bikes.
absolutely. Because it's light as well.
Okay, so the front forks, you've got inverted 41mm fully adjustable KYB forks on both versions, the Lambs and the HO. So what did you guys think of those?
Yeah, I mean, the suspension was great. I thought it worked well. I think they've only included the adjustable on both just to save on costs, you know. Not sure you need adjustable on a Lambs bike, but having adjustable suspension, good thing.
Yeah, it's firm, but it's fair. And keeping on the sports bike theme, it's also very light.
Very light.
Super light.
188 kilos wet, and not only is it very light, it's also very narrow.
Yeah, really narrow bike, and that made it really easy to filter on. I was not expecting.
Oh, see, I was expecting that. I mean, coming from the MT-07, I kind of expected maybe it to be a little bit more difficult being in that position, but I think combined with how narrow it was and the weight, it was great in traffic.
And I actually read, I think, that it's narrower than the R3.
What?
Is it really?
Yeah. I think the frame in particular is narrower than the R3.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the narrowest in their super sport lineup. Then it makes it such a great commuter.
Yeah, I never expect sports bikes to be comfortable commuters, but I've actually been very pleasantly surprised, including another bike that we'll have coming up in a review very soon.
Oh, yeah.
Now, in terms of looks, we've got the electric blue.
Now, you weren't a massive fan, but Lucas and I both love that.
Yeah, so tell me about your likes, and I'll put mine in the
I just think
down.
that colour absolutely pops.
Yeah. It's just distinctively Yamaha blue, and paired with the blue wheels.
Yeah, and I actually didn't mind the blue wheels.
Yeah.
It's funny for me because I was like, I don't really like that sort of stuff, but it's a great paint job.
Yeah.
I think you described it as a killer paint job.
Oh, mate. Killer, epic paint job. It looks like a fish in the best way possible.
Looks like a fish.
Yeah, like a big blue fish.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I think, look, the color is not my favorite color, but I will say it works very well on this bike with the wheels as a whole. I give it a thumbs up in that way. It's just not my color, but it still look good.
Well, I know it's funny because you guys picked it up when I was away, and then I think you sent me a photo and went, "Oh, it's a looker." And I looked at the photo and went, well, yeah, it's all right. But I must say, it looks better in real
Yeah, it
life
does
than
look
it does
very
in photos. Yeah,
Yeah,
like, I think in real life, it actually looks really sporty, really stylish. The front end looks awesome. Yeah, no, I really liked it.
Yeah, and all of those things combined, the price is not too bad. Like, I think it sits around where I would expect.
Yeah.
So it's $15,949 right away for the HO version, and it's $14,849 for the learner approved version.
Okay, so the first thumbs down for me, that screen, it's absolutely fine, but it's not a TFT, and it's just a bit meh.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I looked and went, okay, there's some information there. Cool. Nothing. Like, I would rather see, I don't know, like a nice TFT or just something a little bit more updated. It just looks like, when you were saying the engine's from 10 years ago, it looks like that screen's from 20 years ago. Like, all the information's there, it's easy to get to, it just doesn't look the greatest for me.
As typical, I think with a lot of bikes that we review, tail tidies badly needed.
Yeah, there's only one tail tidier that I've seen that's uglier than this one, and that's in a review coming up as well.
That's true.
It looks like a piece of gal from Bunnings that's been hastily screwed on to put the number plate in place.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, they have to do it, but man, that's the first thing you'd do is swap out that tail tidy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not that we'd endorse people making their motorcycle non-standard or not within regulation.
Never.
No, you have to make it in within regulation, of course, Lucas.
Of
Yeah,
course.
absolutely.
What was missing?
Quick shifter.
Quick shifter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, the gearbox was buttery smooth. It's the HO, right? What separates it from someone who's learning? Some expert features. And I think a quick shifter is a modern expert feature. It really doesn't cost that much to put on. They have it as an option.
You can definitely get it as an option. Yeah.
So just put it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be a nice difference between that and the Lambs version as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Massively.
You've got the more powerful engine. Be nice to have a quick shifter with it as well, as standard.
And now there's another thing that we always have an issue with Yamaha, and that's the sound of the exhaust. Kind of average. It's fine. I like the tone of it, but it's quiet.
I don't think it sounds very good.
Oh.
But if you put a slip on, I don't think it's going to sound any better. And I've been to Bankstown. I know what a straight piped MT-07 sounds like at full tilt on the M5 going a million. And it doesn't sound good. It sounds like an engine that has been designed to be efficient, not an engine that has been designed to sound good.
This is really nitpicking, but the seat, first of all, the seat on this bike, it looks like the shape of a love heart or a butt.
A butt.
It looks like a butt. I just thought it was a really weird, and my bike has the same shape, but the crevice is filled in.
The crevice is filled
crack.
in.
The crack
Isn't
is
as
filled.
prolific.
What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I just thought it looked a bit weird. Like it's very defined.
Yeah.
And then like that's just look wise, and then the pillion seat is a bit weird.
Yeah.
The pillion seat's odd, like the shape of that. It reminded me of the Aprilia Tuono seat with those plastic bits down the side, which was a cover on the Tuono, but on this it's not. Like that's the pillion seat. That's just odd.
And probably very uncomfortable as well, I would say.
Yeah.
The next thing for me is the ABS and traction control, which isn't switchable.
But mate, why would you want to switch that off?
I can tell you why. Because you bought the HO version and you're going to take it on track.
Yeah, possibly.
And maybe you don't want front ABS, or maybe you don't want traction control.
That'd be a nice difference between the Lambs and the HO version. Yeah, okay, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that it's not switchable.
Oh, it's not a deal breaker.
No. Okay, and then there's the brake light. Now, I don't have a huge issue with this. No, I do have an issue with it because it looks like to me a snooty waiter with his nose up at you. If you're riding behind, it's just the shape of it looks like an upturned nose.
You'd be the expert on snooty waiters, the restaurants that you go to, wouldn't you?
Well, they're certainly turning their noses up at me. But I just like on the MT-07s, that nice V-shaped brake light that they have. I think that would have looked good on this bike. So yeah, little thing, but I'm just not a huge fan. Okay, and then there's the point that no one else agrees with me, which is the color. It's just not my cup of tea, and I don't love...
You prefer the vomit green of your MT-07?
It's yellow, and Yes, but it's just that I also prefer matte colors. And I think maybe if elements of this were matte, maybe matte and shiny combination would have looked pretty cool. Just a full gloss coat, it's just not my style. And the blue specifically, it was fine. It was a little dark for my liking, maybe because I like bright colors.
Okay, so guys, talking grin factor. Now, you two went on a bit of a ride.
Yes.
Met up for breakfast.
We did.
And then I had a phone call. What the hell happened?
I made the huge error of parking my motorcycle, the R7, safely in a parking space.
Perfectly legal parking space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Risky maneuver.
Oh, massively big mistake. And when I came back outside, I noticed that my bike, the R7, is in a different spot with a big scratch down the side.
And part of the clutch sitting on your seat.
Yes.
And a broken left indicator.
Yes. And it was at this point that someone approached me and said that my bike had been reversed into, and then the person who had hit it had rallied the troops, picked it up, and run away.
Well, at least they picked it up, right?
Yeah, thanks.
So I'm changing my mind. It should be in fluoro green like your bike now. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yellow! But in saying all of that, look, it wasn't too badly damaged. Apart from a blinker that was sort of flying in the wind, we were still able to take it through the park.
So for a bike that was knocked over, I was actually surprised when I saw it, the very little amount of damage on the fairing.
Yeah,
it was sort of surprising.
Well.
Yeah.
The biggest damage was to my heart.
God, it was upsetting. Yeah.
And then making the phone call to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, Lucas and I took it through the national park. We did have a blast, even though we had to learn how to use it with half a clutch.
Yeah.
I think the first thing I noticed taking it through the park was just learning how to corner on that bike. Being in that sportier position, I just have to lean differently to how I would lean on my MT-07.
Yep.
So I just found, at first I wasn't enjoying it that much because I'm like, it's not leaning with me. But I just found if I put more weight into that turn, then it seemed to sort of work out. So it was a bit of a learning process for me. In terms of that seating position, it's a nice seating position, right? Like it's not super sporty.
Yeah, I didn't find it too sporty. It's
comfy.
But it's not upright either. You've got that in between, but it's, it was a pretty comfortable seat. So look, with all those things in mind, I think there's a lot of little things. It sounds like a lot of negatives, but I think they're all small things. That in total, I'd probably give it about a 7.5.
Okay.
So for me, I didn't think I'd like it, and that's why I said, you guys take it, I'm not going to bother riding it. And then I had to go get some shots of it one day, and I had it for like a day. I went, hang on, this is actually a bit of fun. I actually really enjoyed riding it. Then I decided to keep it for a couple of days. So I took it for a ride down through the Nasho, a little bit of commuting. Comfortable, sporty, really enjoyed it. But I've got to be honest, I haven't really thought about it since I handed it back. And I think that's the problem for me.
Yeah.
It was great, but it's just not. It just didn't set my heart on fire. So for me, it's about a 7.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that you make as well, because when I was riding this, it's apparent that it was designed with a checkbox. It's like good handling, check. Brakes work, check.
Absolutely.
Power's good, check. And that kind of comes through in the design language because it's not, as you said, it doesn't set your heart on fire. It's just a bike. And, well, why would I buy this instead of an MT-07 if they're essentially the same? Yeah, I know it looks better, but it's essentially an MT-07 in a dress. And that was my biggest criticism of this bike.
Yeah. For an extra, $2,000?
Yeah, exactly. That's an expensive dress.
Yeah, I think if someone specifically wants a sports bike, and let's be honest, most young blokes who get on bikes, a lot of them, the first bike they want to go and buy is a sports bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Every bike I've owned is a sports bike.
Yeah, so I can see guys and girls not wanting to get an MT-07 and going with this.
Yeah.
I still think the MT-07 is probably the better bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Oh, the MT-07 is a great bike.
Yeah, I agree. It's such a good bike. And also, learner approved, R7. Would you get the R3 instead?
I actually don't know where the R3 fits, because I would go the R7, not the R3, because I think you buy that bike and then it's like the MT-07 Lambs, you don't need to upgrade.
Yeah, okay, I get that. I'd actually go for the R3. I'd save my money. I'm a learner. I've got no experience. If you're a returning rider, it's no question, you get the R7, as Ross said, and you don't upgrade.
But if you're a returning rider, you're probably a bit older and you'd probably go the MT-07.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. And it presents as better value. But, so does it fill the gap between the R3 and the R1? Yeah?
No.
Yeah. No.
So what would you give it then after all of that?
Oh, yes, what would I give it? Well, An inoffensive score for an inoffensive bike is 7.
So 2 7s and a 7.5.
Yep.
There you go.
So it's no one's surprise that I like sports bikes, and you can click on this link over here to see some sports bikes that we've reviewed, starting with the epic Ducati Panigale V2 Bayless Edition.